Hi guys! So I'm going to demonstrate for you how to make a pop art cartoon character using paper cutouts. This is going to be an exercise in recognizing how shapes build iconic characters. Iconic as opposed to just recognizable. What is the difference? That's what we're going to explore. All right, continuing on, we have the selection of papers, of colors for the character I'm going to do. I'm going to do Pikachu, a very iconic character from Pokemon, of course. He was like the original Pokemon. Why is Pikachu iconic as opposed to simply memorable? There are, of course, millions of characters out there, but the iconic ones break down into shapes that convey an appropriate visual metaphor. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Looking up a very simple how to draw Pikachu step-by-step online, but then breaking him down into shapes, I was able to make a few observations. First, his head and his body are generally the same size. That's very common with these sort of cutesy, cuddly, stuffed animal style characters. And I'm making a lot of hand gestures because you can't see my face. So I'll speak with my fingers. All right, so I found a really great size. It's just a jar lid, nice circle. And like those stuffed animals, his head, body, same size. Both of them are circles, generally speaking. I'll show you the variation shortly. But I'm going to just trace my lid on the yellow that I've selected in the cardstock included in your kit. And then I've cordoned off some spaces for other body parts. I hope that's showing up. It's kind of light. There we go. So his ears I will draw in here. They're rather long, thin, rabbit-like ears. He has these pudgy, cute little, cuddly arms, and he has very little feet. So I made some space for his feet, and I guessed a lot of the sizes, based on relativity, like a relative ratio, not relativity like space-time. And for his tail, I left all this space down here. And that's going to give me all the space I need to create a character to fit on the background color I've selected, which is the blue. I'll set these aside for now. All right, so I've got all the basic spaces fenced out for the parts. Now I could just draw him out and cut him out in one big shape. But for the sake of illustrating to you why he is based on shapes with visual metaphor, I've broken it down a little bit further. So for his head, I'm going to go ahead and label his body. Now his head, he has the pudgy cheeks, and he does have a kind of a tiny little mousy snout. And so for that, it's a very small sort of variation. It just comes out a little bit for some cheek and then arcs back down nice and smooth to rejoin the head, the circle, sorry. And so we've just added a little bit of width here with this very chubby cheek-like outcropping. Where am I? Right there. Okay, so I just like extended it out for this little cheek space. On the other side, there's something similar going on, but for a different reason. We extend outward along the bottom ever so slightly, and then kind of go straight back up. And that's on this bottom edge down here. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be quite that angular. Maybe I'm going to smooth it out just a little bit. I'll try that, see how that works. Just by another half a degree or so. You can always fix that. Okay, so right along the bottom side, this is more like in the middle. You could even do it up here, depending on how you want his head to tilt. But this is more to give the idea that his body has weight, that there's fur, that there's, pudginess and skin. And so we've diverted a little bit from the perfect gravityless circle to give him some mass that he's being affected, and he's got a little bit of extra poof. All right, his body follows similar rules. From the circle, right along the, it doesn't matter, it's a circle, as long as you keep in the same direction. I'm going to start about here in the middle and bring it out just a little bit. So it kind of looks like he's settling toward the floor. You can get that. So the bottom part of the circle, whatever you designate to be the bottom, accepts a little bit of weight. So it's flattened out a bit. It really doesn't matter how dark you make your lines. When we finally cut the shapes out and glue them to the paper, everything will be reversed, just for warning. All right, and for the size of the body, just sort of bring it up in a little bit of an arc to extend. And much the same on this side, following the side of that circle. So now we just kind of have a sort of a gumdrop shape. And you can make that go in as much as you like. Just try not to overlap at the head so we can cut both of them out as separate shapes. Probably should have made my original circle a little closer down here. Anyway, I'll just cut between. Great, so we have kind of a gumdroppy, weighty body formed around this circle. And on the same size circle, the head, we just have a little cheekiness here. And some weight / furriness here on the back. So starting with the circle. So what does a circle mean? Back in the beginning of the class, we discussed how different shapes carry different meanings. And the circle is, for literal reasons, the most complete. Roundness carries the implication of softness, of wholeness, stability in the sense of a holistic perspective, 360 degrees all around. Mickey Mouse is, of course, infamous for circles. How 3 circles conquered the world, I believe, is the name of a book about Disney. So circles already start you off with the foundation that this is a non-threatening, kind of cuddly, soft, pudgy, round, non-confrontational kind of creature. Darken my line there for no reason. All right, so what about the other shapes? Well, speaking of the iconography of the character, oh, I'm sorry, these were other templates that I used for circles. Just testing for size, seeing which ones I like better. This one came in later for cheeks and eyes. Other tools that are necessary: a ruler, scissors, of course. Oops, scissors, pencil, eraser, paper punch if you have one. Paper punches are great for all kinds of decorative elements or small details. Anyway, back to this. The tail is, of course, the most immediately recognizable, meaningful metaphor for Pikachu's character, and that is, it conveys the nature of his power. I mean, no pun intended, power, electricity. So it has that characteristic lightning bolt shape. In proportion to his body, it's about yay wide, but because it's so zigzaggy, you might have to get a little creative. What I did was I just started it off this way. You know, that's as widest point. And then it comes down at this angle here. Not totally straight lines. I mean, there are some straight lines involved, but at this point, still kind of like little inward, ever so slightly curving arches, just for that initial roundness. Okay, then there's a sharp curve turn there. That comes in pretty sharply there. Goes out, but at this point the tail starts getting really fairly thin. and like that, and then super out and down. So you can go back to straight lines at this point, sort of make a zigzaggy. Not all of the tail is going to be visible from behind the body, but that is the shape of it. It is this zigzaggy lightning thing. Zigzaggy lightning thing. Very wide at the top. You know, again, for large, non-pointy, non-entirely pointy shapes. Angles imply things like arrows, and arrows can either mean a direction or like an arrow, like a bow and arrow, you know, like a weapon. The knives are also pointy. All right, so what about those ears? The ears and the feet and the arms are all the same basic shape, and it's kind of a leaf shape. Also reminiscent of Gothic arches. It has that curved to a point kind of thing, curved to a point. The feet, it's easy to start with. I have these two sections right here. They're pretty small. He has really tiny feet. Starting at the line that intersects the two, or I'm sorry, bisects this rectangle. I just curve it up like that, and to make a kind of Gothic window as symmetrical as I can. Symmetry is actually really difficult to do. All right, I think that's good right there. I'm gonna clean that my line a bit. Okay, so I have what will be two identical feet, or, you know, opposing feet. The arms, same thing. Let's see, this is about the center of the arm. That's about the center of the arm. Kind of like leaves, though. They flare out before coming back in. They don't come to a point, though, because he's got these little pudgy little midi things, you know, like paws. So he's got teeny weeny fingers. So we're going to leave some space for fingers. Down like that. Kind of like a leaf, or a feather, you know, flares out a little and comes back in toward a point, more like a leaf. All right, and then you can just sort of put 4 little squiggly marks at the end. They're not going to be too visible once you cut all the shapes out. It's pretty symmetrical. Work on the details later. So there's the arms. I can label these. Arm, feet, tail. And then these are the ears. Just like the arms, only they do come to a point and they're longer. Give yourself enough space to tuck them behind the head. So, not like that. I have to fill the entire rectangle. They're not that long. I just give myself some space to work with. All right. Shave a little off on the inside corner there. You want to be precise. You only need to make one, then you can just flip it over and use it as a template for the other one. I think that's what I'm going to do rather than trying to draw them equal without that assistance. Okay, so these are the basic parts for the Pikachu. Circles, lightning bolts, and leaf shapes. Quick, recognizable, meaningful visual metaphor is the basis for iconographic characters, because you are literally creating icons, which are simple geometric assemblies. As we go into details, I'll go into how complex characters use complex shapes. We'll be right back.